Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Another day, more national polling with Donald Trump leading the popular vote. And we're currently 12 days away from the 2024 presidential election. And Kamala Harris and Donald Trump essentially knotted up at around 49%. Very few undecideds at this point. The early vote data looks very good for Republicans, and Kamala Harris continues to remain on her doom loop trajectory. She's showing people why she didn't make it to Iowa in 2020 by the day, and this is something I've told a lot of people, especially back in July and August during the AstroTurf surge for Kamala Harris, is that she's not really a strong candidate. All of the hype was fake. All the joy would fizzle out. It would go away as it has. And they're back on their button mashing strategy, trying to get Donald Trump. She's in the same position, essentially, that Joe Biden was in. She's losing every single swing state. And we see more polling that confirms this, not just at the federal level, but at the state level. And we have a poll out of Franklin and Marshall, one of the most liberal pollsters, one of the most inaccurate pollsters that has underestimated Donald Trump twice. They underestimated him by 11 points in 2016. It's a typo on the screen in their final poll. In 2020, they underestimated him by 5 points. Now he leads their final poll. He leads it 50-49. That is absolutely insane. He's never led in Franklin and Marshall before. And it's like the right time you see Donald Trump peaking. The early vote data looks very good out of North Carolina, where you even have a Marist poll that dropped. The same pollster, their final poll in 2016 and 2020 had Joe Biden and Hillary, whichever year you want to pick, up by 6. Now they have Trump up by 2, and he's hitting 50% in North Carolina. The early vote, if anything, would confirm he might be doing a little bit better than that, but still, we do have a long way to go. But the fact that he took the lead in the total early vote, or at least Republicans are leading the Democrats in total early voters, is absurd right now. And then you look at Georgia, where you have Marist dropped a tied race, but again, the white sample was way undersampled in terms of their weighting target. They had like 56% of the electorate white. That's going to be in the 60s from what we understand. And the gold standard that dropped there had Trump up by 4 in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which is absolutely huge because they also have underestimated him, but by around like a point or so. So it's not really, like they're that inaccurate. But you look at the polling in Georgia, the polls in Georgia have been accurate at the end of the day. You can kind of see this here, even this day in history, but also in 2022. Relatively accurate polling out of the state of Georgia. Right now, Trump is up by 2.2 percentage points. That is big. He's kind of sweeping the states so far. We see in the Sun Belt, Arizona, Marist dropped as well, which has Trump up by 1, which is huge because Marist has been that gold standard poll. They even had Hobbs winning in 2022, and now they have Donald Trump winning. I think that is possibly going to underestimate Trump, but given the early data that we have, Arizona looks pretty good for Donald Trump as things stand today, and Nevada is insane. Democrats are losing outright the early vote in Nevada. That is bad. And everybody knows that it's bad. So Trump needs one Rust Belt state, and we've talked about that. But we have new polling today out of Wisconsin. Emerson did a poll drop. They have Trump up in every swing state, or tied, I think, in the case of Michigan, except Nevada, which that poll may not age too well given the current early vote trajectory. But you're looking at this, Donald Trump leading the polls in Wisconsin, and even Eric Hovde is neck and neck with Tammy Baldwin now. I mean, this is a fundamental shift we're seeing, especially given the polling track record in Wisconsin. But then Pennsylvania, you have Emerson dropping a poll, another poll out of Pennsylvania with Donald Trump in the lead. Kamala Harris is not even to 48% in the RCP aggregate in Pennsylvania. 12 days to go. I've talked about this. That was a state where Biden, he pretended like he was from there a little bit more than he actually was. And you had a very tumultuous environment where you had inflated turnout due to all these election law changes. And even then, it wasn't enough to really win by a noticeable margin in Pennsylvania. And the polling at this day in history overestimated both Biden and Clinton by around, 4 to 6 points. So when you look at the state of the race, obviously I don't anticipate a big polling error given the lack of undecideds, but there still could be one, and we don't have our final aggregate. But the more polls we see from even sources that are not really friendly to Trump, the better position he's truly in. And it's possible the Democrat request firewall, not even the return firewall, but the request firewall is going to be under 500,000, which means their goal of 500,000, which is still not enough, by the way, in the early vote returns. It's not there. It's not going to be there for them. That's a major problem. So Kamala Harris is in a lot of trouble. They know it. So they send her out to do a town hall on CNN. And I don't even know what to say at this point, but we're gonna play this clip because it's honestly like you could make the case they're trying to throw this thing because this is how bad it is. Like with Biden, they put him in the basement, made him this generic Democrat, and obviously for a while they were doing it with Kamala, but then they just stopped and their numbers went down, so they have to keep putting her out there in these Hail Mary attempts. And is it really working? Well, I think you guys can watch and judge for yourselves.
So I may not be quick to have the answer as soon as you ask it about a specific policy issue sometimes, because I'm going to want to research it. I'm going to want to study it. I'm kind of a nerd sometimes, I confess. So I'm...
Okay. I think it speaks for itself. When you look at this and she's basically saying, yeah, I don't actually, have an answer on policy. I'm going to do my research because I'm a nerd. Well, if you're such a policy nerd, why did it take so long to put a policy page on your website and you're just copying and pasting either parts of Biden's plan and then like parts of Trump's plan, essentially? Nobody buys it. And the bottom line is that she's not differentiating herself from Biden. She is Biden. I think you could make the case that in some areas Biden could be arguably a stronger candidate. He would be a stronger candidate than Harris right now if it wasn't for the debate and the media backlash from the debate that we see. She's such just a clown, essentially. People can see that. She does the cackle. She brought back the cackle. She's really in a lot of trouble. And this was supposed to be, we're going to give her a platform. We're going to ask her questions. She does not answer the questions. She doesn't even try to answer the questions. It's word salad, meaningless word salad. They say Trump is somebody that likes to ramble or whatever. No, Kamala Harris is the one that's doing these word salads that mean essentially nothing all the time when she's asked these questions. She was asked the question, what are your weaknesses? And that was part of the response. I don't get it. But there were other moments that she had when she was asked about codifying Roe v. Wade. We could play this.
Let me ask you, you've talked about codifying Roe v. Wade. That would obviously require 60 votes in the Senate, a majority of the House. That's a big leap. We don't have that yet. If that's not possible to codify it in the House, what do you do?
I think we need to take a look at the filibuster.
Okay. So first of all, the filibuster doesn't exist in the House. And if you can't get it through the House, you're not going to be able to get it through the Senate. And I'm actually glad CNN asked this question because it's true and it's not talked about enough. She's basically running on a promise that she'll never be able to fulfill, and then saying Trump is running on something that he would never be able to do. And that's not even Trump's position on the topic, but it's true. They're never going to have the votes in the House, likely, to codify Roe. I mean, it's possible that, the Democrats do retake the House, but that wasn't really the hypothetical asked here. They're not going to have the Senate. They're not going to be able to really, I guess you would say, get rid of the filibuster given that point. But, looking into it a little bit deeper, it's like, well, in terms of the Senate, getting rid of the filibuster is extremely unpopular. There's all these things the Democrats have planned to essentially do if they're able to get that through, and they're going to pass all these legislation that are even more unpopular than the ones Biden passed that they weren't able to pass. And that's not something that is going to win over independents because the filibuster, getting rid of that, is not popular. essentially. And they're going to be able to pack the court and do all these other things and overplay their hand and do something even more unpopular than whatever they perceive the, kicking the abortion issue back to the states was, which is something that's kind of just, I feel like a lot of people have just begun to accept that. And that's why it's not a pressing issue, according to most polls, compared to where it was in 2022, especially among a lot of these independent voters. And it's true. This is just a meltdown overall. They tried the hoax that Trump said, oh, we need the Hitler generals, and there's no proof of it. It didn't gain traction, and they're overplaying that hand. It's the boy who cried wolf at this point. That's all it is, and it's just not true, and nobody believes it. Same thing with the burying of the soldier hoax that just got blown up by the family of the soldier. And then now there's a new hoax that says that this woman, when this has been played out before in 2016, they say, oh, Trump grabbed her ass 32 years ago, and Trump was with Epstein. Of course, they put the Epstein card in there. But here's the problem. Once again, you look into the situation, it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up at all. It's not a consistent story. You can look at the basic details of, a 3-year discrepancy from when Epstein lived in the place she claimed that he lived in at the time. That's kind of a major issue. Of course, they're trying to play that card, anything to distract from this campaign with baseless allegations and hoaxes. Who is surprised at this point? It doesn't really matter. And then you have the Wall Street Journal poll showing Kamala losing the popular vote decisively. If she loses it at all, she virtually has no path to the election. And then Kamala Harris completely just put on an abysmal performance in that CNN town hall. That was, again, another part of her closing argument that she just doesn't have. She doesn't have an argument. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is flooding the airwaves. He's outspending Harris down the stretch, and he's getting voters out. We hear about the get out the vote operation from the Democrats. They say, oh, well, it's a massive get out the vote operation these people have. Well, why aren't these voters getting out? Why are Republicans the ones that are performing surprisingly well? But it's not just that they're doing well in the early vote. The Democrats are just not doing well at all, even compared to, other post-COVID metrics that we can use for the early vote, the in-person early voting everywhere. Republicans are swarming the polls early. Democrats are not exactly doing that. Are they all waiting until Election Day? It's something that they've never really pushed for their voters to do, unlike Republicans in 2020. So it's like they really have a lot of trouble on their hands, especially in those states that we have comprehensive early voting data on. The only states they really have a shot in at this point, also coincidentally, are the states that don't register by party and don't have, that much early voting. It's very murky out of Michigan, Wisconsin, but even Pennsylvania, when you look into it, it's really not that great for them. And it's getting worse by the day. So we'll have to see what happens, guys. But anyways, make sure you like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. And I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.